Okay, hi everyone. This is Colleen Meyer. I'll be the moderator today. We are talking about Women and ADHD Roundtable. Let me introduce our wonderful host, Lafaya Mitchell. Lafaya is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She is the author of the amazing Lafaya Way book series. She's a speaker and she is the founder of the Parents Empowering Parents PEP workshop series. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments section and we will answer your comments live here on Facebook. Lafaya, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you so much, Colleen. Colleen is absolutely fantastic. She'll be our timekeeper tonight, so we'll be on time with our 30 minutes. And then she'll also be helping us out if anybody sends questions because I cannot see them from where I sit. But we have a fantastic panel of ladies today. I'm super excited to have their expertise. And I'm going to have each of you ladies spend about a minute or so introducing yourself, what it is you do. Go ahead, Jamie, get us started.
Hello, my name is Jamie Frigeau. I am a registered nurse. I've been a nurse for about 10 years. I worked in neuro ICU with the brain, which I passionately love, but now I work in rapid response. But I was diagnosed with ADHD in December of 2020. And since then, I started doing tons of research, and I even started a podcast called The Neurodivergent Nurse so that I could take everybody along with me on the journey of learning everything about ADHD.
Awesome. And Jamie is super awesome, so I can't wait to hear her input. Dr. Bauer, how about you?
Yes, thank you again for having me on your show, Lafaya. So I'm Dr. Narissa Bauer. I'm calling in from Carmel, Indiana. I'm a behavioral pediatrician and a blogger of Let's Talk Kids Health. And my specialty is really working to educate and empower children and their parents together right after receiving a diagnosis of ADHD and or if families just aren't feeling like they're right where they need to be yet. I am interested in just making learning about ADHD fun and taking the overwhelm out so that the way that families can just get along and learn everything they need to learn so that they can harness their ADHD.
Yes, awesome. Dr. Bauer, wealth of wisdom. Okay, now Tina, tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. I just want to say that first and foremost. I'm Tina. I'm from Brisbane, Australia. I am a mum of two, and I was diagnosed with ADHD actually after my son was. So when I was learning about his ADHD, I realised that was also my life. I am an accountant. I'm also a certified PT and health coach. So I've done quite a few different things over my time. And I'm going to be heading into the ADHD coaching space very shortly. So that's me.
Awesome. So happy to have you, Tina. And now I want to jump in because it matters, the matter of women and ADHD, oftentimes it's either missed when women or girls, females, are dealing with or living with ADHD. A lot of the symptoms are missed because they're more hidden for us females. And so I just wanted to talk today a little bit about, what Jamie brought up, which is being diagnosed late, or Jamie and Tina both mentioned being diagnosed, kind of later in life. I know at one point I said to someone they got diagnosed late in life, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't mean it that way." It's not as early as most of our little guys get diagnosed. Yeah. Is all. So my first question for my panel today would be why it is that you think that females tend to be diagnosed much later than males.
Well, my first episode of the podcast of the Neurodivergent Nurse was about ADHD in women. And from, again, just my research and digging around, we don't present the same as boys do when it comes to ADHD. So they are used to finding these characteristics, just like the hyperactivity. We're not always fidgeting in our seat. We're more hyperactive in our mind, and we learn to mask it really well from what I've learned. So we may be really chatty, or we may just be more quiet, but our head is still racing, our mind is still racing. So I think that's, for me, I think that's one of the main misses for being diagnosed as a female with ADHD.
Okay. And how about you, Tina? What are your thoughts on why that it seems to be the case?
Yeah, I do agree with what Jamie said, and also, I guess as women, we come up with the coping mechanisms, the coping strategies. So, in our head, we're just, we're like, why can't we do all these other things that, maybe other women or even other men can do? And we have to come up with ways to mask that and coping strategies, and we go and do so many amazing things because as women we're really good at that. We'll go to university, we'll become pediatricians, doctors, accountants, lawyers, and I think that when people see that, they go, well, you can't have ADHD because you've done all these amazing things. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
I will just say too, I mean, I think as a behavioral pediatrician, it's not uncommon as both of you experienced to either have a diagnosis after your child, right? Because you're starting to learn about ADHD and you're like, huh, let me think about this and
Mm-hmm.
gosh, that sounds a lot like me. And we know that ADHD is very there's a big role that genetics has to play. So it's not uncommon, but as you said, both of you, as far as what I see is like a lot of girls and women, they often present with anxiety and
Mm.
that perfectionist tendency. And I think anybody who knows that ADHD, anxiety, they run together a lot. About 30% of children with ADHD have anxiety, but 50 to 60% of kids with ADHD or individuals have other things going on. So it's really important to keep talking to your physician no matter what your age, because we need to be constantly learning about where your struggles are and your strengths. So that way we can kind of develop a personalized plan for the individual.
Right. And now, for those of you out there that know me already, you guys know I always call myself, I'm like the gumbo girl. Like, I have a little bit, a mixture, have some trauma background in there and some serious, some Aspie, just Aspie traits, and, on the ADHD side for sure, as far as symptomology is concerned. So, becoming a therapist caused me to learn how to super diagnose myself with, oh, that's what the problem was. That's what it is. That's what it's been all this time. So basically, I got to learn kind of through my practice. And initially, my plan was to go into nursing, but I took one psych class, and it was like I was sold. I was like, oh, psychology is it. This is what I need to do so I can learn more about myself and do better, right? And so it's really exciting though to actually have this particular subject come up, because there are so many women out there that are still undiagnosed, and I mean tortured, internally tortured, just wondering why, what is wrong with me? Why do I have such a hard time? It's such an important subject to bring up so that we can kind of uncover this thing that's been quite kind of hidden for women for many years. But can you guys, let's talk a little bit about what's some of the, like, the internal struggles. We talk about all the obsessive thoughts and all that. What are some of the other internal struggles that you find that women have when they are living with ADHD?
Perfectionism. I mean, always having to be perfect, and have to work harder to just be equal. So, like, we desire so much to be the intelligent one or to be the athlete or to be whatever, but being good and just as good as everyone else is often not good enough for us. Like, we have the need to prove that we are better, not that we want to be better than anyone else, but just that we really need that type of internal affirmation. And so it causes us to work so hard to be perfect, and the pain and sensitivity that comes from not being the best at something or just being human at all. I think that is my biggest struggle that I didn't know was ever linked to ADHD. And it was such a relief when I found that out.
awesome. That's awesome. Okay. And now, any other feedback from our other panelists about that internal struggle piece?
I think perfectionism, yeah, Jamie, you hit that on the head. I think that's for a lot of us, that is our internal struggle. As I said, it goes back to the other struggles that we have growing up, and wondering why we're different. I don't know about all of you, but I certainly knew inside of me that I was different, and I didn't know why. And I think the perfectionism comes from that, because you're like, well, I don't know how to do these things, so I'm going to make sure I'm perfect to make people think that I'm okay and I'm normal.
Now, and then I just want to bring in that super, because this is my favorite area to talk about, that hypersensitivity, where it just feels like your emotions are so much stronger, than others. And I'm not sure, because again, like I said, I'm the gumbo, but I've heard that there are a lot of similarities. Like even sometimes it'll even lead into like having some sensory issues that maybe we may not have it because of the extra anxiety. It just kind of heightens the senses to kind of be in this constant state of really, okay, I really don't understand why all the emotions are as strong as they are. And then people are, they either look at you like, oh, either, and it depends on how your symptoms display themselves or whatever, but they kind of look at you like, you need to, you should just calm down, or you should just do this, this should work for you, right? And things like that. And what you find, and I don't know if whoever else has had this kind of experience, but then you kind of get tired of hearing people say, oh, you should just think of it this way, or try it that way, and then you find yourself unable to do that. And you're like, well, if I could do that, don't you think I would? Have good common sense. Anybody else have that experience, or is it, just me, where it's just that emotional struggle?
Yeah, I feel you on that one. Don't worry.
Like big time emotional piece, right? Now, Dr. Bauer, I had a question for you, a very specific question. Now, when you're dealing with that emotional side of ADHD, because most times that's missed. Like they are all for understanding hypersensitivity and all that stuff, but the perfectionism piece, that emotional turmoil piece, they don't really get to. But what are some of the techniques that you use to kind of help people get through, or some of the advice that you give to help people get through that emotional side?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, again, a lot of what I do in my work is centered around families. And so, because we know that the research says that oftentimes if we can teach the whole family those executive functioning skills, and motion dysregulation is one of the lagging skills among individuals with ADHD, it's much more empowering to them. So some of the simple things is just building, at least for children, is building emotional vocabulary, and be going beyond just happy, sad, mad, and glad. We really want to teach them the nuances of what those feelings actually are underneath that anger iceberg, or whatever it is that's underneath the surface. Because if we can unlock what's really laying under that surface, we can really get to better understand each other. So, helping, model and describe those emotions, showing that our home is accepting of all emotions, the good, the not so good, and everything in between, is going to be really important. And then mindfulness, right? Emotions are like waves in the ocean, and we need to teach kids that even though in the heat of the moment, right, it can feel really yucky and not good. But if we can just sit with that and not get upset with ourselves when we're feeling those strong negative emotions, but to be kind to ourselves, recognize it's a signal for something else, and then we can sort of ride that wave and know when we need to ask for help. So I think, just normalizing it for everybody is going to be the most important thing, but then helping teach and act, helping kids learn how to just, ask for help and better describe how they're feeling.
Oh my goodness, that's so awesome. I love just have to pull out two of those key points in there. So teaching them how to describe what's really going on with them, going beyond the sad, mad, that's so key. That's so awesome. And then working with the family towards, and I'm sorry, the person themselves, the patient themselves, and the family towards acceptance, humongous. because acceptance of the feelings that you have, quite honestly, acceptance is what leads to a less amplified response. It's when we're judging ourselves that we're having that, more exaggerated response. And it's when other people are judging us and we're feeling invalidated that we're having, right, that more emotional response. But now our two coaches, what do you guys think? What are some of the techniques that you teach for actually calming some of that emotional turmoil that goes on for our, especially our women dealing with ADHD?
I think for me, it does touch on that, naming your emotions. I think it comes with practice. It's becoming aware of your thoughts and your emotions, and developing strategies to really talk to that mind that you have that's telling you all these different things, and trying to come from a way of calming that negative self-talk or the emotions or whatever it may be. It's tapping into that, understanding what it is, and then trying to have that more positive self-talk and that mindset. And I think that it definitely comes with practice. And I feel for the pediatricians. It's hard trying to teach a young child how to name those emotions and things like that. So for me, I think it just comes with acceptance, with knowledge, and with practice.
Oh, awesome. Now, I love you brought up, because I know in my former conversation with Dr. Bauer, she brought up the automatic negative thoughts, and teaching the kids, and it's such a fantastic acronym, right? And I was like, oh my goodness, that's such a good, so good, such good stuff, little tools to use. Now, Jamie, typically, how do you advise on how to deal with that internal piece?
So I think that one of the biggest struggles for internal situations that I have had, especially when it comes to emotions, things like that, is also, like Dr. Bauer was saying earlier with anxiety, I also have very high social anxiety that I worked through before I ever had any idea about ADHD. And mantras were really good for me. Like even when I was first becoming a nurse, and there was a quote by Mother Teresa that I used to read a lot whenever I would feel that I wasn't good enough. And like at the very end of that, it would say, but it wasn't about them anyway. Like that's not the purpose of what you're doing. And it helps. Mantras always help ground me and bring me back to the reality of the world that I'm trying to create, not the world that I feel sees me. Like I stop looking at myself through the lens of others, and I start looking at the why and the reality of my lens. And that was a really hard thing to come by, but that was one of my big takeaways is, mantras. And to try to figure out, why am I feeling this way? Is it real or is it perceived?
Ooh, I love that.
Definitely.
I love that idea, just because now you guys, if you're not writing some of this stuff down, you need to be writing this down, because these are key tools. But mantras, really getting yourself into a space where you're feeding energy into the thing that you want more of. So that's usually what mantras, we're usually repeating something that's kind of giving us that positive message. Mantras, affirmations, listening to even positive meditations, which are just combination, affirmations anyway. But getting into work, like that's how you get to that internal peace. So having a really good understanding of what's going on with you first and foremost, bringing that to the front of your awareness, and then mindfully, purposely, intentionally causing yourself to get onto new thought tracks, in the areas that you truly want to feed, and learning to, and you guys, those of you who've spoken with me before, to starve the beast, right? The beast is that negative energy side of you, right? And it feeds off of all the bunch of negative energy that we take in. So what we want to do is we want to start pulling away from giving energy to that, and feed the energy and divert the energy that we're going to use anyway, right, towards what we really want. So it's key. Doing things like reading mantras, having your affirmations, and repeating mantras is exactly where we want to go with it. Now, like I said, I'm super excited about like just this information alone, but you guys, I have to. Like, there's like an area that has been so untouched, right, by people that I have to bring it up on today's panel. And it's that area of those behaviors that those who have those, especially, well, not especially women, but those with ADHD, they engage in certain behaviors. For women, we can get into things like binge eating, some impulsive shopping, all those kind of things that are self-sabotage. Oh, even if it's not super binge eating, maybe it's just overeating in such a way that we're happy with ourselves or whatever. But there are these areas that we enter into, struggles with relationships, because we now are we're kind of feeding that adrenaline seeking side, right? Because when we're depressed, we have to kind of try to find a way to get boosts, and emotionally we're not thinking this through, but emotionally we just kind of gravitate toward doing things that are very self-sabotaging. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that piece today, because I want people to actually hear about what the experience is like, and certain tips and tricks for things to do to overcome like the strong pull toward this self-sabotaging behavior. So now, I know, Jamie, I'd like to start with you. Talk to me a little bit about what do you do when your impulses are working against you? How do you advise?
I think advising is not always the same as what I do.
Okay.
I think that I think educating others is something that really helps me. So I can't just look up things for my own self gratification, right? Like, I don't just want to fix me, but I'm like, hey, maybe someone else has this issue. So I'll go down rabbit holes of information, and then of course I see the correlation. I think, oh, this is actually really good advice that I'm telling other people to have. So that's one way that it helps pull me out of the self-sabotage or like the impulsiveness. I want to get to why and how I can help others in that situation that I feel like they may suffer from it more, but really it's a reflection of me.
Yes. Okay, so you're more of an intuitive educator with people.
Sure.
So if you want to label it, no, I'm just good at
it gives me so much satisfaction. If I could think of others, then it gives me a break from looking at myself so much, because like I said just a minute ago, the way that I look at myself is not always positive. But then when I look at everybody else and I know the struggles they go through, I see them as human. I see them the way that I want to be seen, but I don't give that same grace to myself. So it just really helps me come full circle in a way.
Okay, so putting your energies into helping others actually helps pull you out of
100%.
those rabbit
Yes.
holes. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so that's one technique, guys, out there. Okay, now Dr. Bauer, and I'm not sure. Usually with children, things are a little bit different, but you still get some very similar, just like little kid type behaviors.
Yeah.
Now, when you see, oftentimes, first and foremost, what do you usually see in little girls that seem to be like self-sabotaging types of behaviors?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of that negative self-talk, and I'm not good enough. Everybody else is this way, and it's just all those ants, right? We bully ourselves. And so, two things that we teach the kids in the class to do is, first of all, to name that set negative self-talk. So that way, when we recognize that that bully is coming up, then we can say, judging Judy, I don't need you right now. Thank you very much. Right?
Ooh, I like that.
Because, just as a bully on the playground, we have to intervene and we have to not let those negative thoughts get in the way. So that's one. The other is, I try to introduce the concept of, how would you treat your friend? If your friend is coming to you for advice, what would you tell them?
Yes.
And if you can treat yourself the way you would want to treat your friend, like that sort of makes sense, right? I mean, we would never do things that, if we are a true friend to somebody, we would never do something that would hurt their feelings. But, you know, we do some, and so, teaching kids early from a young age to recognize those two strategies and then having the parents sort of help reinforce that. So they can say something like, wow, I'm noticing you're getting a little bit frustrated. Is that nagging Nellie on your shoulder? Like, let's tell nagging Nellie to go away. We don't need her right now. Let's take our deep breaths to reset, right? So, kids can't do it alone. And I think that's part of the beauty of sort of onboarding families together, because we all need each other and we all need that.
Oh, I absolutely love that. Oh my goodness. Okay, so you're putting form. That's my favorite. Putting form to the issue. So instead of just allowing yourself to beat yourself up, you're putting form to that voice.
Mm-hmm.
You're giving it a name.
Giving it a
name.
name.
You're taking it a step further by teaching them to treat yourself as kind as you would someone else. Would you ever allow yourself to say the same things that you allow your mind to say to you? Would you ever say that to someone else? Right. Mm-hmm. So if it's not something that you would say to someone else, then now you have to work on not allowing it to be said to yourself, or for you to say it to yourself. And I even, and taking it even that extra, just piggyback step further. I love to say, you know what, treat it as if there's someone that's saying those words to your friend. And then now what would you say to that person saying those words to your friend, mm-hmm. right? And so then it's even more. So then we get into even like a self-protection, kind of space. And so it's very, where it's self-care. You're treating yourself more kindly. And now, it's awesome. Okay, now what's some of your wisdom to share about how to deal with some of that, internal piece that we deal with?
Yeah, definitely. For me, it's definitely mindset. And as I've sort of touched on before, it's that mindset and knowledge of what's actually happening in your brain. So, when you come across those urges to self-sabotage, whether it, and I've been there with the binge eating, the issues in relationships, work, everything. And I think it comes down to sort of acknowledging that it is an urge. It's that internal, whether you call it hyperactivity or urge or something that's making you want to sabotage whatever it may be. And it's developing that mindset to go, okay, step back. I've felt that urge to do such and such. Now I need to, again, with the internal self-talk or naming it, as Narissa said, it's telling that urge and whatever's happening in your mind that it's not needed, that you've acknowledged what it is, and that's not going to get you to where you want to be. So, I often do that on the couch at night, when I'm just feeling that, want to go raid the cupboard or something. I'm like, I have to take a step back and go, is that really what I need? I think really what I'm needing is dopamine. I'm going to go get that from somewhere else rather than going to the cupboard. Yeah.
Oh, that's so awesome. Okay, so just mindset. So you already have it kind of, you kind of put yourself in a space. And I love now, Tina, you've mentioned this a couple of times. It's almost like you're teaching like how to work a muscle. Like you're starting you're using something that you weren't quite using before. Now I'm bringing this muscle, right, to my awareness. I'm going to practice using it. So then when I want to go raid the cupboard, I stop and I stop, take a step back, become the observer now, and I ask a question, right?
Yeah.
And that's so key. It's so very cool. I'm excited about the conversation, you guys, because I have to say that I know this is going to be helpful to some. And now I just want to do like a quick, because I've heard it, I always hear it. My philosophy, I always hear it everywhere, and I want to give people something that they can like be able to step 1, 2, 3, 4 this thing and work their way through it. But now, if you guys haven't heard it, and maybe you've heard it before, but it's good to get a recap. But timekeeper.
1 minute. 1 minute,
okay.
Lafaya.
I'm gonna give you guys it in 1 minute. Okay, but now when you're looking at the Lafaya way, then when you're step 1, and especially we're dealing with the emotional piece, you want to find your calm. That's first and foremost, because if you don't find your calm first, you're not going to be able to be kind to yourself. And now with the Lafaya way, all four steps work together. In order to find your calm, you need to do things like understand the real truth. What is it that I really want? Like Tina said, this is, is this really what I want? And then you're getting into now responding in alignment with your truest intentions. You give yourself a way to now respond in alignment. No, I don't want to beat up on myself. I wouldn't want someone else beating up on me, so I definitely don't want me to beat up on me, right? I'm my closest enemy. I have to change this, right? I want to be my best friend. And then the last step is my 3 R's. The recognize the small step improvements, because we're so commonly good about being hard on ourselves, but we don't celebrate. Like, we'll have the pity party all day long, but we won't have the fun one, the positive party where we made an improvement by, I don't care, I was 10 minutes earlier than I usually am. I might have still been 20 minutes late because it used to be 30, but now it's 20. So I'm celebrating. Right. But recognize the small step improvements, reinforce them highly, have your fun parties. If we're going to have some pity parties, let's at least balance it out with some fun, right? And repeat. You're always vacillating through the 4 steps. And if you start to follow this and you start to kind of work this and kind of keep it stirring, keep it going, then all of a sudden you'll find yourself having a better relationship with not only yourself, but to everything and everyone else as well. Now, I am truly, truly, you guys, excited about the conversation that we had today. I'm hoping that we all get a chance to kind of touch base again. Maybe I'll have like a big, kind of a big round table at the end. And I appreciate you for your time. Now, just really quickly, I know I'm over just a little bit. Sorry, timekeeper. But quickly, if people want to get in touch with you and get to know more about what it is that you do, if something resonated with them, what's the best way to reach you, Jamie?
You can check me out on any of your favorite podcast platform, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever, at The Neurodivergent Nurse. You can get all of that good material there. So
she has good stuff, you guys. Check her out.
Thanks.
How about you, Dr. Bauer?
Yes, thanks for asking. So my website is letstalkkidshealth.org. I'm also under that for Facebook and Instagram, and I also have a Facebook Live show, free parenting book club, and I'm enrolling my Teach Me ADHD course that'll start in September.
Yes.
Registration opens next month, or actually, tomorrow, August.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I was going to bring it up. I was like, okay, she was being too nice. She didn't share her curriculum. Okay. And Tina, how would they reach you?
The best place is to go to Instagram. I'm the ADHD accountant, and then I've got a link tree that will take you to my Facebook page. I've got a Facebook group as well, so that's probably the best place to go first.
Awesome. And you guys, for me, I'm always LafayaWay.com. You can find me. You look up Lafaya Way on YouTube, Facebook, wherever, on the web, on the World Wide Web, you'll find Lafaya there. I'm so excited. I spoke to myself in third person. But anyway, it's so nice to have you guys with me. Thank you, everybody who joined us today. And I hope that I know that you got something out of it. And until next time, make sure that you stay you and that you stay true. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for having us.